You're about to begin another season with the iconic game day. So I'm curious what you're most looking forward to this season on game day.
Well, I tell you what, Mackenzie, I'm excited that we're starting the season off with some really great games. When I played, your non-conference schedule was really competitive, but nowadays teams, they don't want to take on those challenges, so to speak. But we have Notre Dame versus Ohio State. Game day will be there. Even Thursday, before we get to Saturday's games, Thursday, West Virginia at Pitt. And they call that the backyard brawl. So that's going to be a fist fight too. We just got some wonderful games this week. Oregon versus Georgia. Notre Dame, Ohio State is interesting because those are two huge brands, Mackenzie. And you just never really see them on the field at the same time. So I have to give credit to these teams, these ADs, for scheduling these games early. I'm excited about this first full week of college football.
Yeah. And we also do have to ask you, too, your college football playoff predictions. I know some of them are taking some heat. So are you surprised at all to the reaction to your picks?
Let me tell you this, Mackenzie. It's really crazy because, it's if you're not on social media, then you're oblivious to the heat. And because of I made my picks, I went on about my day Saturday. I wasn't on Twitter, really wasn't on Instagram either. And so whatever transpired after I made my picks, I was totally oblivious to because I just made my picks. And but the thing is, Mackenzie, listen, you know sports, you understand sports. Isn't it boring to just pick the same old teams every year, especially if you believe that there are other teams out there that could possibly get into the college football playoff? A year ago today, Michigan was picked to finish fourth in their division, not their conference. We're talking about their division. So had I said Michigan last year, maybe people would be like, oh, he's a homer, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's crazy. And they would have went crazy again, but yet still Michigan made it. Cincinnati, a group of 5 team. And, I've picked Cincinnati before, too. I thought they were on the cusp. And listen, they made it. So, I pick teams. I think outside the box. I do a little study. I do a little research. Texas A&M, Jimbo Fisher, he's been stacking. Listen, he's been stacking top recruiting classes. You know why Mackenzie? Because Nick Saban said so this summer. You heard what Nick Saban said about Jimbo Fisher and the recruiting classes he's been bringing into College Station. Are you kidding me? So at some point, he's going to get over that hump and get to a championship game. It might be this season. Why not?
I'm glad you mentioned that because you said you have Texas A&M winning it all this year. And Jimbo Fisher and Saban went nuclear in the offseason. So could you go a little bit more into detail for me as to what gives you confidence that this is the Aggies' year?
Well, I think that, to be the champ, you got to beat the champ. And they already beat Alabama once. Now, obviously, they had 4 losses a year ago, but they beat Alabama. So psychologically, mentally, they know. They don't think. They don't believe. They know they can beat Alabama. And when they played Alabama, listen, they pressured the quarterback, Bryce Young. He was sacked 4 times. They understand to beat Alabama, you're going to have to match strength in the trenches. And they believe that they can do that. And then the perimeter will take care of itself. But you first got to match strength in the trenches at the line of scrimmage with Alabama. And I believe that Texas A&M, they returned a bunch of players on both sides of the ball in the trenches. I believe that skill-wise, they have some guys out there who will make plays and who has made plays. So I like the mentality. You have to know you can beat them. There are teams who think they can beat Alabama. They believe they can beat Alabama. But I think Texas A&M, plus adding fuel to the fire, what Nick Saban said during the offseason. That's when you kind of circle the wagons and you really want to protect your coach and you go out there and you take your game to another level. I'm expecting that game to be a dogfight when they play Mackenzie.
I like that. And also, too, you have A&M beating your Michigan in the Natty. So what gives you confidence the Wolverines and Harbaugh are going to get back to the college football playoff after? I know the Orange Bowl was a little less than stellar game, but
Yeah.
Why'd
They ran
why'd you
into a
pick them?
buzzsaw. Georgia, you see how many players they had going the first round from
Yes.
that defense. That's a generational type of first type of defense. So that it is what it is. That was a hell of a team. Them dudes,
Yeah.
they recruit on a different level down there in the South. But
Facts.
I think that Michigan, they have a lot of firepower on offense. The tricky part for me, Mackenzie, to be 100% honest with you, is even though they have like all this firepower on offense, like they got two quarterbacks who are outstanding. They have two running backs who are just, I think, a hell of a 1-2 punch, maybe one of the best 1-2 punches in college football with Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards. They have one of the deepest receiving rooms in the country. They have two tight ends who will play in the NFL, and I think they have a very solid offensive line. Jim Harbaugh went in the transfer portal, got a young man from UVA to be a center to try to shore up that offensive line. But what gives me concern is the fact that Josh Gaddis, who was offensive play caller a year ago, he's now in Coral Gables as the offensive coordinator. And now it seems like it's going to be offensive coordinator by committee. So I want to see how they're going to call these plays, because it's not as easy as it looks. People take that for granted. They think it's just the talent out there. But I don't know, anybody who plays chess, like you have a chessboard and the pieces are the pieces. They have their different powers, their different strengths based on the moves they can make. But who's going to be the Kasparov? Who's going to be that person that knows how to make those moves with those pieces? That's what a coordinator does. So that's what really I'm keeping an eye on, Mackenzie. That's the intriguing part for me, to see how they're going to call these plays. I think they got a lot of firepower on offense. I want to see how they use these guys. And defensively, they lost probably 3 first rounders to the draft. They're going to have to retool. But they rotated a lot of guys. So guys weren't quote-unquote starters, Mackenzie, but they got some valuable reps.
I know it's the conversation dominating Ann Arbor, but what do you think Michigan should do at quarterback? 2 quarterback systems rarely work. You know that.
Yeah, but it worked last year. Like you got Cade McNamara, who started 14 games, but J.J. McCarthy played in 11, and he played well. It was like it was garbage time. Like they put him in, when games were still in the balance. So it was nothing. So they have a lot of confidence in that young man. He's a 5-star recruit, and it shows when he's on the field. So he has a hell of a decision to make. This isn't the normal quarterback dilemma that most coaches have. Like, this is a very unique situation, because both guys, listen, K took them to the college football playoff. JJ came in and did work when he got the opportunity to play. And he's a guy who's shown he has tremendous upside. He has a different skill set, obviously, than Cade, because he's more athletic. So now you have defensive coordinators that they have to prepare for 2 quarterbacks. And I think that's an advantage for the offense.
It felt like Harbaugh finally had the season that was promised when he arrived in Michigan. Do you feel like he's delivering on his promise, or does he need to win the Natty for the monkey to really get off its back?
Well, I think that I don't know if he promised a Natty, but I think that for anybody to get the monkey off their back, they got to win that Natty. You know what I mean? And I think that he's climbing in the right direction, so to speak. Last year was huge for him, but he lost a lot. He lost both coordinators, and that's not easy to recover from. So I don't know what the expectations are for a lot of people as they're watching the Wolverines go into the 2022 season.
Yeah.
But losing both coordinators isn't easy to bounce back from. I want to see how they handle that. I do believe they have the firepower on offense. Defense, it's going to take a while for them to catch up to speed. But because they hired a DC who actually, he used to coach in Baltimore with Mike McDonald, so they pretty much run the same system, same terminology. So it shouldn't be a lot of change in that department when it comes to the philosophy and the terminology for as far as coaches communicating that to players.
Speaking of coaches, who do you think's on the hot seat this season? Is Scott Frost already a goner?
Mackenzie, last week when I did College Football Live, I said that there is not one coach in America that's coaching college football that needs a win in his first game more than Scott Frost. And Scott Frost, not only did they lose the game, but they lost the lead late. Like, it's been kind of routine for them, and made mistakes late, 2 turnovers. So it seems like the more things change, the more things stay the same, which is not good for Scott Frost. Now, listen, that was the first game. Like I said, it's not like I was on social media, so I don't know. Like the Cornhuskers Nation spiral out of control on social media after that. I have no idea. I wasn't on social media, but you know the seat is getting really like they're turning up the knob on that stove right now, and the heat is starting to get to like you got low, you got medium, high, and high. I would say what do you think? What do you think it is, Mackenzie?
Well, from what you said, it sounds like it's very high, so I wouldn't want to be Scott Frost right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting there for sure. Yeah.
This time next year, the college football video game will be out. Everyone is extremely excited for it, and you were a cover. So who do you think should be on the cover for next year's game?
That's a really good question.
The hard questions.
Yeah, no, but I think that since it's next year's game, it would depend on who has a great season this year. Like, will I put Bryce Young on it because he won the Heisman in 2021? But if the game's not coming out to 2023, I don't know if that's the right move to make. So probably I would want to put somebody, even more current. Not that he's not current, but someone even more current to the season that just took place before the release of the game. So it depends on who jumps out as a star player in 2022 and has a magical season. That's probably the person that I would vote for putting on the cover, unless they just want to do another special limited edition cover of Desmond Howard. Then I'm all for that too.
There you go. Fair enough. I love it. We are in the prediction business. So what are chances of Will Anderson being first defender to win Heisman? Like, who's your pick?
Yeah, well, the thing is, I think that as a former winner and as a fraternity member, I think I take it a little bit more seriously than others. And I believe that everyone should start at the same starting spot. Like, everyone should start the same starting line, like a 400-meter race, right? The only person that deserves the distinction of having a head start, that should be the front runner, or should be a guy who, has a little bit of an edge, should be the guy who's returning that won it a year ago, which is Bryce Young, Alabama's quarterback. With that being said, that hinders Will Anderson's campaign, his chances, because they may split votes. Now, if he was this all-star dominant player on a different team, and he didn't have, he wasn't sharing the locker room with the guy who won the award a year ago, then that's a whole different set of circumstances. But because he is on Alabama's team, and so is Bryce Young, and Bryce just won it, then I think that you have to understand that they may start to split votes. Even people in the SEC, some may vote Bryce number one on their ballot. Others may vote Will Anderson number one on their ballot. So then they start to split votes, and he doesn't get as many first place votes as he would deserve or that he would need to win the award.
Last few questions we have for you. Who, in your opinion, is a guy that we aren't really talking about right now that you think is going to become a big star this year? Like, who's an underdog player for you?
Whew, wow, let me see. Man, we talked about that on game day. I tell you what, one guy who I like that I think is going to start to get a lot of attention once the season's over, and the analysts and the GMs, they start to really, in the scouts, they start to break down tape. And I think quarterback at Kentucky, Will Levis, I believe that he's a guy who people are going to be really impressed with. Like, all the focus right now is on C.J. Stroud, the quarterback at Ohio State, and of course Bryce Young, the returning Heisman Trophy winner at Alabama. But there's some other guys who I believe, and you remember I told you this, Mackenzie, come late March and early April when people start talking about the NFL draft and guys are starting to move up on the board and move into the first round. I think that Will Levis of Kentucky, the quarterback there, is going to be a name that you're going to hear quite often.
Does Michigan beat Ohio State this year?
Catch me,
Ohio State fans.
Catch me in November.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Well, hey, we appreciate you so much. Thank you for your time and the honesty.
Yeah,
thank you.
Of course.
Hey, sports fans, if you want to watch more sports seriously, be sure to check out these clips right here. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel to see all the great content from us here at USA Today Sports.